So let's talk about the important events that occur after implantation. So after that blastocyst has implanted in the uterine wall. When implantation occurs, the blastocyst looks like this. We've got the inner cell mass, which of course will become the baby, and the trophoblast, which of course will contribute to the development of the chorion and the placenta, things I'll talk about later on. But anyway, what we're going to see here in the next stage is a little bit after implantation, you'll see that the inner cell mass is going to flatten out a little bit and form a disc. It's 2 cell layers. And we're also going to see that it's going to pull a little bit away from the lining of the trophoblast. So let's take a look here. The diagram's a little bit different, but you can see, that embryo, that inner cell mass, has formed 2 cell layers and it's pulled a little bit away from the trophoblast. This little gap that has developed here is going to form what's called the amnion, or basically it's the amniotic cavity or amniotic sac. So at this point, that embryo consists of 2 cell layers. Let's see, it's a little dark. Let's see if we can brighten that up a little bit. Yeah, not so much. Okay. But anyway, what's going to happen next is, between these 2 cell layers, we're going to see the emergence of a 3rd cell layer. So let's take a look. There we go. So now we see clearly 3 distinct cell layers. We have the ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. Now the word derm means skin in Latin. Ecto means outer, meso means middle, and endo means inner. So eventually we're going to have this 3-layer structure fold over on itself to form basically a hollow tube. The outer layer is going to be the ectoderm, the middle layer is going to be the mesoderm, and the inner layer is going to be the endoderm. Now, this is important because certain things are going to develop from each of these cell layers. So the ectoderm, which is the outer layer, is going to develop into things like your epidermis, your outer skin, including your hair and your nails. It also will develop into the nervous system, your brain, spinal cord, and nerves. The mesoderm, the middle layer, will develop into basically things in the middle of your body, which would be your bones and your muscles. And the endoderm, or the inner layer, basically develops into anything involved in digestion or your gastrointestinal tract. So your stomach, your intestines, your liver, your pancreas, all those things. Now notice as well that on top of this 3-layer structure, we have a small space. That small space, again, is called the amnion. And below that, we have another space. And this space is called the yolk sac, or will develop into the yolk sac. So what we're going to see next is this 3-cell structure. The ends are going to fold down. They're going to fold around and eventually will make a hollow tube. The tube will be surrounded by the endoderm, and that's going to basically turn into your intestinal tract. And when it folds around, you can see the amnion, which is on top, is going to fully envelop the embryo, which makes sense. What you know about the amniotic sac is that it surrounds the embryo. Now, the yolk sac is not going to be fully enveloped. Only a little bit of it's going to be enveloped, and a lot of it will remain. And we'll learn a little bit more about the yolk sac in a little while. So here you can see, this is the embryo at this point. We've got our 3 cell layers. On top we've got the amnion, and below we've got the yolk sac. And what's going to happen, you can see, is those 3 cell layers are going to start to develop a little bit, and they're going to start to fold over, as we can see here. Now, it hasn't completely folded over here, but what you're going to see eventually is this tube is going to be formed. And this tube, again, is going to be your intestinal tract. And what's left after the folding over has occurred down here is going to be the yolk sac. And of course, you can see how the amnion now is going to be surrounding the entire embryo. So this is, the previous slide was a cross-section. This is a longitudinal view, but you get the same idea in that the amnion is going to start to fold around, and the 3 cell layers are going to start to curve around each other. Another important event that occurs not too long after this is neurulation. Neurulation is the development of your brain and spinal cord. Now this occurs in the ectoderm, the outer layer. Now what's going to happen is a structure called the notochord is going to develop in the mesoderm, the middle layer. Now the notochord is going to induce neurulation. It's going to cause neurulation. It's going to tell the ectoderm to fold over on itself. So you can see a couple of ridges beginning to build up here. Those are called neural folds. Eventually those neural folds are going to continue to grow, And as they do, they're going to arch inwards, and they're going to actually connect and form a hollow tube. Now this happens all the way down the length of the embryo. This hollow tube is what's eventually going to become your brain and spinal cord. At the front of the embryo, it'll be the brain, and behind that, it'll be the spinal cord. What happens to the notochord? The notochord is actually going to develop into the vertebrae, the bones that surround your spinal cord.